Hello and welcome to Sunday Service with me, Graham Hughes. Oh, that would appear in the right place. That would have been a better thing to have happened, eh? Oh, anyway, it's gone now. Okay, so big shout out to Diz and Saz and Veg Pie in the chat. We've also got Scott in there and Sarah Davis and Katrina in UK Medsy. Hello, one and all. I know it's early, Sunday morning, so it's a bit late getting started. It's quite funny. See this I changed the setup for the show that I did last week with Tan and Aid, and it said the name of that show. So I changed it, so it said Sunday Service. But then, just as I was about to press go live, I realised that it said Sunday Service with some Super Tansky. I was like, oh shit, wrong show. So I was faffing around trying to find that particular animation, so that's why I was late. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. So today we're going to be talking about habeas corpus, what it is, the history of the thing, why Donald Trump wants to get rid of it, and why he's such a dick for wanting to get rid of it, and why it's quite a disturbing thing for any leader of any country to do, not least the leader of the free world. So before we get into that, I just want to say hello to everyone in the chat. If you'd like to join our friends in the chat here, you just have to press the subscribe button and wait for a minute, and then you'll be able to opine openly, but don't be a troll. Okay, so today's episode is about one of the oldest and most fundamental principles of the legal system, of the democratic world. Habeas corpus. Show me the body. It means in Latin. It's basically when you are arrested, they have to tell you why you've been arrested. You have a right to be put in front of a judge and tell you, what you've done wrong, and then you have an opportunity to dispute that or say, yeah, I did do that. It's a fair cop, but you've got to be told, and it has to go before a judge. So in this country, it's like 24 hours, you've got to go before a judge. So they have a special dispensation or something if it's a terror-related thing before they go to the judge. But essentially, when the police make an arrest, the idea is at that point, they have enough evidence against you to put before a judge, and the judge can independently say, yes, this is fair enough. Trump's threat so far, it hasn't been done, but his threat to suspend habeas corpus is very rare in the democratic world, and it's incredibly dangerous. This isn't an amendment to the Constitution, my friends. This is the Constitution. So you have the Constitution, and it has certain articles, and then you have amendments to the Constitution. So the First Amendment to the Constitution is that the government will not impede free speech. Now, Facebook or your local landlord down the pub or landlady, they can impede your free speech, but the government can't. In America, we don't have that rule in the UK. The Second Amendment is about guns or something mad. The Fifth Amendment's about self-incrimination. You can plead the fifth, as they say in America. They're all amendments. No, this is part of the actual constitutional document itself. And it says, Article 1, Section 5, the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. Thank you very much for Paul there for the collection plate. That is very kind of you. At our first super chat of the morning. Let's see if we can get some super chats in. I'll just put all the colours. 5 super chats, 30 minutes. I'll say thank you. I was a bit late getting started, so I probably don't deserve it. But I'm finishing at quarter to 10 because I'll send you off to Political X, Alex's channel, which I realise now as I'm talking to you, I haven't actually set that up to do that. So I'm going to do that as I'm talking to you. I don't know if I'm going to have time to get through everything I want to talk about and also have a look at the papers in the next 36 minutes. But we'll give it a red hot go. We will give it a red hot go. So let's have a look. Sunday roast. There we go. Save. Okay, so you will be redirected. We can have a raid. We can have a raiding party like we're fucking Vikings. Yeah, I love being Vikings. I hope you're having a good weekend. Tell me what you've been up to. You been anywhere? Been anywhere nice? Been working in the garden? been replacing the rotting decking boards in the back. It was a hot day yesterday, wasn't it? I don't think I got a bit of sunstroke, to be honest with you. Which is remarkable up here in Durham. It's kind of a bit too hot to be wearing a big, thick shirt at the moment. I might have to take this off. Which is incredibly remarkable up here in Durham. Like normally it's like -10 all year round. Okay, so yeah, habeas corpus. Show me the body, or you shall have the body in Latin. It's a legal principle that someone cannot be held in custody without being brought before a court. This is not a technicality, it's the bedrock of liberty. It protects people from being detained without due process. Now, you might be able to argue that Trump and his dickhead mates have already subverted the writ of habeas corpus because they haven't given the people that they have deported to this concentration camp, this gulag in El Salvador, they weren't given their due process. And if you can do that to some people living in America, they can do that to the US citizens as well. It's the legal difference, really, between a dictatorship and a democracy. It is absolutely foundational to a democratic process that the leader of that country can't just lock up their political opponents for the rest of their lives without giving a good reason for doing so. I think that when Biden was leader of America and then the Supreme Court gave him powers to do anything he wanted, no matter how illegal, he should have arrested Donald Trump, charged him with 4 different counts of bribery, corruption, causing an insurrection, and stealing classified documents and then selling them to the highest bidder. And he should have just been thrown in a hole in Alcatraz. They should have dug a hole in Alcatraz and he should have been thrown in the hole. Or Guantanamo Bay. I mean, they could have put him before a judge and said, this is why we arrested him. And the judge would have gone, okay, fair enough, he has done those terrible things. But they didn't because he's rich and he's powerful. That was a mistake. So habeas corpus allows challenges to unlawful detentions, for immigrants, protesters, political opponents, etc. It predates the Magna Carta. People talk about the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta lets me go to the pub when there's a pandemic on. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It predates the Magna Carta. It's rooted in English common law. It was incorporated into the US Constitution, and it's one of the very, very few rights that is actually mentioned directly in the Constitution itself. The reason why the first 10 amendments are called the Bill of Rights is because most of the Constitution is based on how to set up a government. It's not necessarily inferring rights onto its citizens so much as saying, this is how it works. We have a Senate, and we have a House of Representatives, and we have a President, and we have a Judiciary, and we have a High Court, we have a Supreme Court. Okay, so that's the Constitution. It's like the foundational document of how the system works. And then you had the amendments, which came later, which said, okay, these are the rights. These are the rights that we're going to give you as American citizens. Although, obviously, after the first 10, some of those rights were actually taking things away, like the right to be able to drink alcohol, which was taken away by a constitutional amendment in the 1920s. Jesus wept. Didn't affect the rich people. Didn't affect the rich people. Rich people could still get alcohol in the same way that the ban on drugs, the war against drugs, doesn't affect rich people. Elon Musk can still get his ketamine. Do you know what I'm saying? Doesn't affect rich people. Look at these things that they stop us, the rest of us, doing, and see if they affect rich people to the same degree. The best example of this is like speeding fines, parking fines. Parking fines are one of the most regressive taxes there are out there. If you park your Ferrari completely on the pavement, blocking the path for everyone, wheelchair users, everyone, and you get a £60 fine for it, that £60 is chewing gum to you if you're a millionaire. For someone who earns £60 a day, that's a day's wages. Anyway, so yes, it's the writ of habeas corpus has been suspended 4 times in American history. So there was Lincoln during the Civil War who suspended it without congressional approval, which was heavily criticized at the time. And what he did was he locked up one of his opponents because there was a war on, and then he had to retrospectively get the suspension put in place, retroactively get the suspension put in place afterwards, which, there was a war on. But, he was a Republican. I guess this is just the way the Republicans roll. During Reconstruction, it was used to suppress the Ku Klux Klan in South Carolina. In the Philippines, it was used during an insurrection when America ruled over the Philippines. That was in 1905. I was on a ship many moons ago. Come, gather round. Story time. Oh, before we get to story time, we have got another super chat. Thank you very much to Admiral Awesome. You are awesome. Thank you so much. That is really, really, really kind of you. Look at this. Welcome. You're Admiral Awesome. You're Admiral. Thank you so much. Do you have to go to the papers? Can't we go to the comic books or Reader's Wives? I hate the papers. Ooh, Reader's Wives. Yes, let's do that in future. To definitely get demonetized. But yeah, gather around. I'll tell you a little story, right? So I traveled the world on a lot of cargo ships. So I've been on about 24 cargo ships around the world, in the Caribbean, the Indian Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. And a lot of the crew tend to come from the Philippines. It's a big seafaring nation, and it's an impoverished nation. And if people can get a 6-month contract with Maersk or CMS CGM, it's a good deal for them. Except they can't see their family and friends for 6 months at a time while they're at sea. And so it can be quite a lonely job. Now, normally the people who are working on the ships, you got the officers and you got the crew. The officers were usually European or Australian, New Zealanders, and then the crew themselves were generally from the Philippines, but they could also be from, there was on ships where they were from Egypt, where they were from majority from Myanmar, from Singapore. It's any sort of place that has a bit of a maritime history, I guess. There's very, very few British people working on these boats going around the world because it's a tough job. It's a tough and lonely job. Anyway, so that's a bit of context. So I was sitting up in the bridge, and one of the officers, who was a Filipino officer, was sitting with me. And throughout the night, you have the night watch. You've always got to have someone on the bridge just in case it's an emergency, and you have to divert the ship, in case you're going to hit something. So you can never leave the bridge unattended. You can't just leave the ship on autopilot. Obviously, you're carrying 100,000 tons of cargo across the ocean. Not a good idea to not leave someone in charge. But the thing is, you go up on the bridge at night, and all the lights are lowered, and then so you can see in front of you anything. But it's pitch black. It's pitch. There's nothing that you can go and stand on the wings of the bridge and look up, and the stars are so bright. But unless there's a nice big fat full moon out, you're not going to see much on the water, and you're kind of relying a lot on the radar, so you don't hit something floating in the water. Because if there's just a boat that's lost its mooring, somewhere 17 years ago and is just floating in the middle of the Pacific, you might run into it. Anyway, so I'm having this chat with one of the Filipino guys, and he says, "I wish we'd been colonized by the British." And I thought, what? And me being like bleeding heart liberal and also knowing a lot about history and the horrible things the British Empire did around the world. And I'm just like flabbergasted. Why would you say that? And he said, because we were colonized by the Spanish and then the Americans. So they gave us Catholicism and guns. If we had been with Britain, we would have got, I don't know, cricket and cups of tea. And I thought it was quite a funny take on the situation, but he had a bit of a point there, because one of the things that's held back the Philippines all these years has been rampant Catholicism, and also they have shitloads of guns. You go into a supermarket in the Philippines, and there's a sign saying, "Please leave your gun here while you go shopping." They got a little basket to put your gun in while you go shopping, and then you pick your gun up when you go out. It's just not normal. I think that the US is the only place that does that, but no, they transported their lunacy elsewhere. But Panama's not as bad, but it's same kind of a little bit same mentality. So every suspension that has happened. Oh, the fourth suspension was Hawaii. In Hawaii after Pearl Harbor, it was that led to the internment of Japanese Americans, which is a a phase of American history that I don't think anyone should be particularly proud of. And every suspension has been followed by intense legal battles and immense human cost. The courts have reaffirmed that both citizens and non-citizens have rights, including detainees in Guantanamo, which was subject to a 2008 Supreme Court ruling. So what America did was they had this thing called the special rendition, where they would kidnap people from other countries, and take them to Guantanamo Bay for questioning, torture, without actually putting them before a judge. And that was deemed illegal by the Supreme Court, unlawful by the Supreme Court in 2008. So why does Trump want to suspend this? Well, he wants to deport people faster because that's his big political win. That's where people still feel like he's doing the right thing. Because a lot of people are scum. A lot of people are fucking evil. And they just want to see other people suffer. So they're like, oh, look, people suffering from other countries. Ha 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 ha. They laugh until it's their own children who are taken away and put in cages in El Salvador, I guess. He also wants to silence dissent, like the Columbia University student Mahmoud Khalil, who filed a habeas corpus petition after his detention. Courts are blocking more of his extreme deportation measures. And he wants to eliminate judicial review entirely. That's his goal. That's what he wants to do away with the judges. He's arresting judges. Stephen Miller, the bald-headed scumbag, who is the guy, the wind beneath Donald Trump's bingo wings, he said that he calls it a privilege. He calls it a privilege, habeas corpus, which is not. It's a right. Not a privilege. It's a right. And Miller claims it's only for rebellion or invasion. And he's claiming, and now Trump is, by extension claiming, that the number of people coming over the border institutes an invasion. No. That's not an invasion means like a military invasion by another hostile power that is coming to take over your country. What's happened in Ukraine is an invasion. What's happening in Gaza is an invasion. Refugees is not an invasion unless you are the Daily Mail from the 1930s and you're complaining about Jews coming across from Central Europe into your country, which is what they did. Which is absolutely what they did. But he's using this border invasion to justify suspending habeas corpus. But this is authoritarian in action. This is like your join the dots puzzle for authoritarian regimes. It's turning a legal grey area into executive power grabs. Habeas corpus isn't just a technicality. It's a line in the sand between autocracy and democracy. And suspending it would mean indefinite detention without charge for anyone they don't like the look of. Which might be you. Might be your dad. Might be your mum. Might be your brother, sister, auntie, uncle, nephew, niece. Might be your own children if you're American. If you're in America. No due process for immigrants, for political activists, or, and this is the big one, political opponents, which he will absolutely go after. Hammer and tongs. He will do that, and he will. And it will lead to the further erosion of judicial independence. The American system's stupid anyway because they have a Supreme Court that's beholden to the current administration that's in, who gets to decide who gets to sit on the Supreme Court, which is a ridiculous system. And there's no term limit, so you're on the court for life. So some people can be on the court for 30, 40, 50 years until they finally cark it. And it's a warning shot to judges, lawyers, university lecturers, migrants, protesters. You're next. You're next, mofos. Prohibition, says Tommy Lee Cadden. Yeah, with alcohol, they used to call it. Yeah. Joanna, to be honest, this is why you can get lab grade 99.9% pure ethanol for next to nothing. That is 0.1% is methanol, making it toxic. So you don't pay the alky tax. Exactly. Isaac says today, Bukele, or Bukaki as I like to call him, arrested reporters and ordered the arrests of the reporters. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, I just got handed a coffee. A beautiful partner. Bye. It looks like she's gone out for a run. Um. Anyway. Yeah, what was I? Sorry, I was reading that. I got. He's arrested reporters and ordered the arrest of reporters who interviewed the gang leaders who he negotiated with. My God, that is terrifying. Well, that's happening in El Salvador, and that's the model that Trump wants to repeat in America. Sneak into the back pew, Anne Phillips. No one will notice. And thanks, Anne. You're an absolute legend. Thank you. Tommy Lee Cadden is in there as well. If Boris had his way, our Supreme Court judges would have been political appointments. Yeah, you would. Yeah, that's what they want. They want to politicize the judiciary. The judiciary should be independent. I believe very strongly that the judiciary should be independent. But this is, in America, this is part of a wider trend of mass deportations without hearings, crackdown on students, political opponents, the jailing of Judge Duggan, the attempts to strip away independent judicial oversight. I mean, this is a really bad look for America. Trump is a very bad look for America because he's so fucking ugly. Like, he looks like a piece of shit. He looks like a piece of shit that someone sprayed orange. Bright fluorescent orange. Bright fluorescent orange piece of shit. That's what he looks like. God. It gives it a bad name. Gives everything. It gives humanity a bad name. Anyway, this is really, really worrying, going down the route of, the Nazis effectively in America, where legal protections are treated as privileges rather than rights. And it matters around the world, because if Trump gets away with this, there will be copycat measures all over the world. Do you think Viktor Orban's not going to do this? You think that Erdogan's not going to go, oh, well, it's all right for him, I think I'll do that as well? Of course there is. And habeas corpus is part of the shared legal heritage across democracies, across the, not just UK and the rest of Europe, but also Canada, America, Australia, New Zealand, across the Commonwealth. And elsewhere, Japan, this underlines how democracy is supposed to work. You can't have a democratic system where the government can lock people up without due process. And that's the system that America wants to put into place. Now, I don't believe that this is going to happen, okay? I know I've built this up to say this is what they want to do. I think they're going to have a real tough time getting this through getting it through Congress. I can't see it getting congressional approval. So what? It's going to be an executive order, which is going to be challenged in the courts. Obviously, the courts are going to like it because it means, they're being the courts are being superseded, like they're being ignored. Why would you need to have these courts? I mean, one of the things that you could say that Trump has done is he's given a lot of work to lawyers and people who work in the court system, judges. They've got loads of work to be getting on with, haven't they? Which isn't great. At the best of times, there's a lot of crimes that need to be trialed, and instead of spending that court time locking up bad people who've done bad things, they're locking up good people who've done nothing wrong. We've got Anne Phillips. Thank you very much for the £2 lateness penalty. That's amazing. Seriously, what's wrong with that last comment that was removed from Graham's feed? I don't know, Acro Dave. I was talking to the camera. I wasn't even looking at the chat. It wasn't me. Joanna, thanks very much, Joanna. You're a legend. The silly thing is, you don't actually have to play with judiciary. They just interpret the laws created. If they want to go crazy, they just have to change the law via the legislature. Yes, they do, Joanna, but they can't. The thing is, the Parliament in America, the Congress, is completely neutralized at the moment because any mad shit that the Republicans want to do will just get blocked in the Senate using the filibuster. You need 60 seats to block the filibuster out of 100, and unless some Democrats in the Senate lose their freaking minds, they can just use that to block any bit of legislation going through the upper house. So the House of Representatives can come up with all the bloody mad legislation it wants, get it through on one vote because they've got a tiny majority. The Republicans in the House of Representatives. Now look, in the Senate, they've got a slightly healthier majority. I think they're on 53 versus 47. But still, it's not enough. You need 60 to get your shit through, and they resolutely do not have 60. And so the Democrats are just going to block anything like this. But it is really interesting that we're seeing the attempt to dismantle American democracy. And I'm not an accelerationist. I get it, and we're going to have this conversation when we talk about Andor next week. Hopefully, we're going to have a big conversation about Andor once it wraps up. In that, the character of Luthen is an accelerationist. When the main character says to him, "These people aren't ready for this rebellion on this planet, and they're going to go down in flames," and Luthen's response is, well, it'll be let's make it a flame so bright that the galaxy notices. And you can see that. You can see that people need to be pushed in order for them to push back harder, because otherwise it's the boiling frog analogy. But I think there's enough sensible people in America just gumming up the works of what Trump is trying to do. And here's the thing. Once Trump is no longer the president, all the things that he's put in place are just executive orders, okay? One way or another, when he's not president anymore, they're all executive orders. Once a Democratic president gets in, or Democrat president gets in, then he or she can null and void all of Trump's executive orders the first day in office. They can just get rid of them because executive orders have no legal backbone. They're not ratified by the legislature, by the House of Representatives and the Senate, known as Congress, over there. I don't know why they don't call it Parliament. I think it was that thing of like they wanted to break away from the British way of doing things. So they copied a few things, but then they got a few things very, very wrong. The one thing that I always sort of look at and go, this is, let me tell you where you went wrong. Let me tell you where you went terribly wrong. Giving too much power to the president. But actually, it's a bit unfair to say to the framers that they gave too much power to the president, because they didn't, okay? So back in the days of the 1770s when they were writing the Constitution, there were things in it like the vice president had to be from the opposing party. So imagine that, right? So if you're still on the system that the framers put in place, you would have the president being Trump and the vice president being Tim Walz, or even Kamala Harris, or even Nancy Pelosi. I don't know. But then they'll get the tie-breaking vote in the Senate, because that's one of the things the vice president's supposed to do. In fact, a lot of the power that the president has today, like being in charge of the FBI and the CIA and the Pentagon and the NSA and the borderline personality disorder, that the border security force, whatever they're fucking calling it these days, Homeland Security. Being in charge of all that stuff didn't really come about till much later on. Some of it was a result of presidents doing a power grab. Some of it was as a result of the Civil War. But you know what a lot of it was? It was a result of the Second World War. So one of the things that got put in the Second World War was the power for a president to invade a country, right? The president of America can invade a country and stay in that country for 6 weeks without having to ask Congress for approval. They have to apply for approval. But if Congress doesn't give it, they can leave them there for 6 weeks. They've got 6 weeks before they have to withdraw the troops. So get this straight, right? The president of the United States can unilaterally, one person, go and invade another country for 6 weeks without any oversight whatsoever, and commit all kinds of war crimes, and then they can pardon all the people who get found guilty of war crimes. That's what the president can do. And all these powers of the president's been built up and built up and built up. And what I'm hoping is, I'm not saying that I want America to fall apart and then something better to be built in its place, because that rarely happens in real life. It takes a long time for a country that's failed to get back on its feet. No. What I'm looking at is the idea that once Trump is out of office, a lot of people will say never again and tweak the system so that it can't happen again. So like an accelerationist will be like, oh, I want everyone in America to starve to death. I want there to be a civil war and that, a new America will rise from the ashes. I don't think that it needs to be that drastic. I just think that the president of the United States needs to be taken down a peg or two or several, which is something in the gift of the legislature in America. If they have the will to do this, they can do it. America doesn't really have. I mean, it's in a constitutional crisis. Let's not beat around the bush here, but it's also, or more pertinently, a Republican crisis. It's a crisis in the Republican Party because all the Republicans are now just feathering their nests, lining their pockets with American money or cryptocurrency or whatever. The corruption in the American administration at the moment is just off the fucking charts. And I'm hoping there's going to be a kickback against that. But for that to happen, the Republican Party needs to stop doing what it's doing. And unfortunately, the voters are giving it no incentive to stop what it's doing at the moment. Maybe in a couple of weeks' time when there's nothing on the shelves and you have to do with $2 rather than 60 for your birthday party or something mad like that. What was he talking about? Dolls. He thinks Mattel's a country, for Christ's sake. I mean, Jesus Christ. Talk about sundowning. But yeah, it's something that I can see happening once Trump is out of office. I'm hoping that people will say never again, and it is a case of, never again. But we will have to see. We will have to see. It's not going to be an easy one by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm just going to head over to the papers now, just for a moment, I think. Do you know what? I've tried to get rid of the advert. It comes up and it says open, close, but because I wasn't paying attention, because I was looking at you, I didn't notice. I didn't notice that the light had changed. That I'd pressed the button. That to say, yes, take me to the advert. Okay, so Joanna, even if Democrats win next time, they won't nerf the presidency as they like having all the powers as well. Well, that's the worry. That's when we say to Labour, you need to get rid of the first past the post system because it doesn't serve you very well. And they go, yeah, but when it does, it serves us really well when it works, for a third of the time. Chris C, as for Putin, I think the time for words and diplomacy has passed. Europe needs to take direct action against Russia, and that means boots on the ground in Ukraine, then so be it. I agree. I absolutely agree. I'm not generally a hawk, but he needs to be put back in his box. Pete says, morning, Graham, and beautiful chat chums. Did you hear that Putin has called for direct peace talks with Ukraine on Thursday in Istanbul? Yeah, and it's just another feint, isn't it? I mean, whether he actually means it or not is a completely different thing. What seeds of division can be sown between Republicans? Asked Billy Kershaw. I don't know. They've left their morality at the front door. Like they don't care about morality anymore. They don't care about doing the right thing. They don't care about Americans or American citizens. They just don't care. They're just in it for the money now. They're just in it, and they're making so much coin. They are making an eye-watering amount of money. Like the oligarchs all doubled their money. The billionaires all doubled their money during the COVID crisis. Yeah, that's what's happening now with the Republicans. They're all getting stinking rich. Paul Ewan, thank you very much for the 79p super chat. That's very kind of you. So yeah, over to the papers now. We've got for all their sakes, end the deafening silence in Gaza now. A picture of kids in Gaza on the left there. The world has turned its gaze away from the renewed assault on Gaza and the blockade that has trapped 2 million Palestinians and condemned its children to death by malnutrition. We call upon Britain and its allies to force Israel to end a cruel war that started as a response to the Hamas atrocity of the 7th of October 2023, but has long forfeited any claim to moral justification. Couldn't agree more. The firm there, Trump Inc. and the New Age of Corruption. I was going to actually, this is my original idea to talk about this morning. I was going to talk about Trump. Welcome. You are awesome. That's for Paul Ewan. You are awesome. Thank you so much for the super chats there. But yeah, I was going to talk about the corruption in Trump's family, but I couldn't get through it all in 40 minutes. I knew that I would. There's just too much to talk about it. Maybe I'll make that one of the subjects for one of the shows in the week, maybe. Or maybe I'll do it next week. I don't know. But yeah, Trump Inc. and the new age of corruption. This is all Trump's family. They have made billions and billions and billions of dollars since their dad or brother, sister, uncle, whatever, got made president of the United States of America. There you go. Bono talks to Sean O'Hannigan. I'd rather not read that. So on to Gillian Anderson on sex, vanity, and growing up too quickly. And then Jeremy Clarkson, I'll be an alcohol if I stopped work. I don't really understand what that means. Oh, I'll be an alcoholic if I... That's really hard to read. It looks like I'll be old bean. Sunday Times, Murdoch Rag, obviously, Astronomer Royal. Got to have a picture of a royal, a minor royal, no less. There you go, Princess Royal there, having a look through a telescope on Liberation Day, because you've got to have a picture of a royal on a paper every single day of your life. Asylum Hotel King becomes a billionaire. Fortune revealed on eve of migration curbs. Rights law dilution aims to aid deportations. Why is that Asylum King? Why is that guy become a asylum king? You know, why has he got that money from the hotels? Because of the Tories. The Tories set things up so there wasn't any safe routes to get into the country. They set things up so we got rid of the Dublin Convention, which the rest of the EU has, but we didn't have anymore. So we couldn't return anyone coming over in a boat to the UK, to France. We couldn't do that anymore. And as a result, we had to put them up in hotels because we're not monsters. Even the Tories aren't really that... Well, they are monsters, but, you know, they can't have people living in tents, although that's what Andrea Jenkins would love to see, people living in tents, because she's a scumbag. Yeah, we couldn't have that. And so they set up this marketplace for people who owned hotels to make a shitload of money from the taxpayer, putting people up in hotels while their cases weren't seen by the judiciary because they were so backed up. So people would be held in these hotels for 3, 4, 5 years, not being able to work because asylum seekers aren't allowed to work in this country either. So they set things up to cost the taxpayer a shitload of money in order to turn you against asylum seekers and to allow their friends who own the hotels to make a lot of coin, make a lot of money out of your hard work and out of people suffering, out of people escaping war situations. Got to have a picture of the royals. There he is on Sunday Telegraph at the top there. Picture of a royal. It's got to be done. And 2 other people. Retired policeman arrested for thought crime tweet. Oh, fuck off. Fuck off, Daily Sunday Telegraph. Thought crime. Piss the fuck off. No, he's probably being a racist or a misogynist or a transphobe. Fuck off. You can't. That's what happens when you go online and you write horrible things. You get arrested. Good. Don't write horrible things. There's Keir Starmer there with Macron and Volodymyr Zelensky. And they're having a conversation, which is nice. Skilled migrants will need degrees if they want a job in Britain. Last morning brew. Cool story, bro. Cool story. Okay, so oh my god. Back to the papers. I just tried to click on it, but it took me to the wrong place. Meghan's dad's new life. A world away from her. It's got to have a picture of a royal. And then we've got Strictly Tough Talks, Jungle Star and Queen's son lined up for hit show. So you got to have a royal. There's a picture of the royal on the front there. Got to be done. The people who live at number 29. Class act Georgia and Tom Parker Bowles with Queen Camilla. Okay. Some royal things going on. I don't really care. And where were we? Meghan's new life. Randy rural folks say they're bed in best. Farmers love a roll in the hay. Okay, whatever. The Daily failing downwards always. We've got David Attenborough, ocean poster. Now everyone who reads the Daily Mail likes polluting the ocean and destroying the environment. So I don't know why they're looking at dolphins. They should Photoshop some, I don't know, plastic on their faces or something. We've got some people here. Beckham feud, apparently. Amid panic over reform surge, Labour finally gets tough on foreign offenders. Commit any crime and you're out. Migrants set to be told. Migrants could be kicked out of the country if they commit any crime under a planned government crackdown, something the Tories could have done a long time ago, but for some reason didn't. New crackdown on immigration lawyers abusing the system. I don't know how that works. Foreign criminals and failed asylum seekers will not be able to abuse controversial human rights laws under government plans. Okay, fair enough. And there's a picture of Dua Lipa. Got to clap after saying her name because that's the way all her songs sound to me. Go back to the main screen. Admiral Awesome, thank you very much. Told you should have gone to Readers' Wives. Very good point, Admiral Awesome. I definitely should have done that. But rather than doing that, I'm gonna turn you all over to our good friends over on Television X. No, Political X. There's a little joke there to go to the Readers' Wives. Joke. Yes, Political X, hosted by Alex Kerr and friends. So if you want to go and if you want to stay on the channel, you can go and watch that. Otherwise, I think that I might be back tonight at 7 o'clock on Super Tansky's channel for F Your Bins with Super Tansky and Nate Thompson. I hope. Fingers crossed if we get back in time. If I cook, I'm cooking a roast dinner today. If I cook the roast dinner and eat it in time for 7 o'clock, we will go ahead with the show. So yes, hopefully I'll see you then. But if not, I will be back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, bright and early, for another morning brew. No rest for the wicked. It was my day off yesterday, and I spent the whole day woodworking, sawing 40 pieces of wood and putting them in place and nailing them down and screwing them down and then burning the old wood. Wow. Jesus. That was my day yesterday from 8 o'clock in the morning till midnight. I did have some nice giant marshmallows, though, so that made it all right. Anyway, so yeah, I'll hopefully see you tomorrow. Thank you very much for the chats. Thanks for the super chats. And until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye. Oh, give us a like.